Welcome to H. Gerstner Sons video on box assembly on a Gerstner build-your-own kit chest. Paul Martin, one of Gerstner's veteran employees, is going to demonstrate the assembly steps for the chest and front lid.
We want to dry fit the box. That way you know where you're going. Dry fitting means that you fit the pieces together before you put the glue on. Just put it together, see how it goes, and then take it apart, put the glue and put it back together then. There are a number of places where the tongue and groove might need a little bit of sanding. These are fairly precise, but there's fuzz on the end of it, and if that fuzz gets in the way, it'll hold back a good joint. Also, you have to figure out how those tongues fit into the grooves. This is the top of the box. This is the back of the box. The drawer slides go on the inside of the box. Again, there's a tongue and groove. If there's any fuzz, something left from the machine, just clean that off. That way you get a nice fit. If any sawdust or any debris or anything gets into that groove, then it will hold the tongue from seating correctly. So you want to clean that out. Again, a dry fit. You got to do a number of things at once here. You have to kind of figure out how to do it best. But they should fit together just like that. If yours doesn't fit together like that, just keep working on it on all of the tongue and groove joints until it does. Because when you have the glue ready to go, you don't want to be messing around with sanding. That's it. This is the bottom. The bottom slides in like that. So that will be the box. And again, you can't check square too often. Hold the square in this way so that you know you're going to have a nice square box. Just like that. So once you've gotten to that spot where you know that the thing is going to work, you know all of the tongue and groove joints work, you know that all of these pieces line up, all of that's going to go, then take it apart and you can glue up the pieces and put them in place, and then you'll clamp it. Double check that all of the sawdust and the debris is out of those grooves. You want to put enough glue in there to hold it. A little bit should squeeze out, but you don't want a giant mess either. A little bit along here is a good idea, because that will hold the back partition up against the back. See how that is? Look for a little bit of squeeze out and clean it up. Get your orientation correct. That's the top. This is the bottom. It's going to fit in like that. Try to think of as many different places as you can to check it. This should line up here. This should line up here. This one should line up. This should line up. Clean up the glue. Now we're going to slide the bottom in like this. I'm going to want a little bit of glue along there, because that'll hit the back. We'll put a little bit of glue in the grooves here. That. Clean it up a little bit. Sometimes if it gets real messy, you can use a damp rag. Now, take a look at the squares. Make sure that you're going in the right direction here. Now's the time for the large clamps. Now they don't have to be too tight, just tight enough. It is actually possible to get it to go too much on the clamps. If the clamps are too tight, then it squeezes all the glue out of the joints. And sometimes it can even knock the whole box out of square. So what you're looking for is you want to take the gap out. You want it to be a nice, clean joint this way. And if you see a little bit of glue squeeze out, that's not a bad thing. One of the great parts about working at Gerstner is you get to use all these wonderful old clamps. Look at this thing, it's been around forever. Long Island City, USA, New York. They probably don't make clamps like this in Long Island City anymore. Again, just tight enough. If you don't have these big 2-foot clamps, you can improvise. Find a nice flat table, a nice flat piece of wood, put it up sideways, and then maybe stack books or something heavy to push it down. That'll also act like a clamp. Now is a real good time to take a look for the glue squeeze out. Take a look inside, make sure everything is going together properly. Double check the square. Now these pieces are cut so that if you put it together with a little bit of pressure, just enough so that it holds, you'll find that the box is square. The problem can come in if you crank it too much, or if there's something in the trough, or if the tongues are a little fuzzy, they're not fitting in properly. Those are the sorts of things that you might look out for. But you can always double check yourself by looking at the square. At this point, if something's going wrong, if it's not going together correctly, just take it apart. Take it apart, take a damp rag, wipe off the glue, and start over again. Okay, with all this clamped up, we'll put this aside for a while. These are the pieces for the front lid. By the way, with the glue setting up, the way glue usually works is there's a dry time and a cure time. We'll let the box dry for a while. Usually it's not a good idea to really work it hard until it's completely cured. But after a reasonably short time, you can take the clamps off. So what we'll do in the meantime is work up this lid. And again, we want to dry fit it. Take a look for the pencil marks. These are marks that we put on the pieces to make sure that the orientation is correct when it goes through the routers and the shapers. Again, it's a tongue and groove joint. This is the groove. These are the tongues. This is a raised panel. They call it raised panel because this part of it is raised. When you fit, if this were all on the table like this, that panel is level with this. This is not correct. If it's up here like this, then that will go, that will be backwards. So you want to set this up. There's a little, you'll see that this tongue is actually offset. And that way the whole piece works out well. Little snug. These tongues. That's a better fit. And that's what it's going to look like when it's done up. Set it up like that. Just here, across that way. Up. Now we'll take it apart. Of wonderful pipe clamps here. Now here's a little secret. If you put a bunch of glue in there, it's liable to squeeze out, and then it'll fill in here, and it's real difficult to clean that. So the trick is, don't glue all the way. Start about 1/2 inch off of where you're going to put the raised panel. This fits in here like that way, it won't squeeze into the panel. You get a nice clean glue joint. Now here you want to get that nice and you can push the glue in a little bit that way. See, and as it is, that glue did not travel up into the joint there. Fit the raised panel in. You don't want to glue here. Where it fits in, there's no glue. This just fits in here like that. The reason for that is that with humidity and moisture and age and the wood moving around, you want to let that panel float a little bit. You want to let it so that over the years it can move independently of the frame. If you were to glue it all together, and this piece were to move, this piece were to move, this piece were to move, they've all moved differently, you can develop a twist. Again, start just a little bit back. clamp to work everything together. Stuff the glue into any little gaps. And again, nice and tight, but not too much. Just tight enough to hold it. This is a damp rag, just a little bit of water. Don't soak it down, it's just enough to take some of the top glue off. This will be sanded smooth, so you don't have to worry about the pencil marks. You're going to sand those off. It just helps to keep some of the glue from getting all over the place later on. Okay, that's what the front lid's going to look like. And we'll put that aside for a while.
That concludes our video on the assembly of the chest and front lid. Don't forget to watch our next video for tips on assembling the drawers for the chest. Thank you for watching.